evil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
There is a grief that can't be spoken. There is a pain goes on and on. Empty chairs at empty tables. And now my friends are dead and gone. Oh, my friends, forgive me that I have lived and you are gone. There is grief that can't be spoken. There is pain that goes on and on. Empty chairs at empty tables. Les Miserables. Let's talk about coping with tragedy. Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast reclaiming faith in the context of political discussion. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII, and you can follow the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher you just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, follow, subscribe to us. Also give us a review. That helps others find us. And I'm doing this solo today, but as always, you can find my partner and better half on the podcasts, for the podcast September, on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12. You can also hear her on the Geek Grills podcast and support her on the Next Top Podcaster. Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site that you can find at patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where you can help support the show. Just $2 a month goes a long way to make this humble show. You can also, when we're live, contribute with bits in Twitch, or subscribe for free with Amazon Prime, or subscribe with money at Amazon Prime. Even if we're not live, you can still subscribe. We also have a website, heresyandhearsay.com. You can go there and view past shows as well as our profiles. So, today we'll be discussing coping with tragedy. So, content warning for those that may not be ready to listen to all of this, and I understand completely. Before we start, I would like Brother Bowie to lead us in a word of prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
On January 19th, 2020, the U.S. reported its first case of COVID-19. It was in the state of Washington. From that point on, the past couple of years have been filled with seismic events and seismic tragedies. From the lockdowns to the deaths of hundreds of thousands, nearly 1 million Americans have succumbed to COVID, and others tragically have had complications after COVID and have succumbed to it as well. Tomorrow marks the anniversary of my father's passing as well, on St. Patrick's Day. He passed away in the hospital due to complications from liver failure. My mother had passed 5 months prior in October of 2008. I bring this up because throughout the years I have seen a lot of tragedy, lost a lot of family members in a short amount of time. Been separated from others. And sometimes we don't cope well. Sometimes we don't cope at all. We bury it. We hide it. I am one of those individuals. Not that the pain was not there, not that the pain wasn't real, but I had other things to do. And eventually, it catches up. I can't tell you how to grieve, and I can't tell you how to mourn a loss of any kind, or tragedies in general. Because in 2020, not only did we have the lockdowns and the mounting deaths of COVID, but then we had George Floyd and so many other tragedies in the black community and Black Lives Matter movements marching in the streets and being called rioters to this day, when there were always bad actors in any group. Then the election and the big lie that continued on and continues on. The attack on our democracy in January 6th, and then the subsequent changes of narrative to make them seem like patriots and just got a little out of hand. Though 5 people died, and many more that day, and many more officers took their lives from the amount of PTSD that they suffered from that day. Hundreds of officers risked their lives, and many were wounded and injured, trying to protect our democracy and to protect those people, some who decry our democracy now. But they would do it again, I am almost positive. Vaccination shots and Delta wave in 2021, followed closely by Omicron. And just when it looks like things were starting to stabilize, a war breaks out in Europe. A war that has a lot of people scared. And so many tragedies are shown on our screens night after night. I remember when I was young, my father was in the military, and my mother and I would talk when I was older, when I was an adult. And I asked her what it was like during the Vietnam era, because she was anti-war per se. She supported, it's one of those fine points of you support the individuals that have to go to war because they have no choice. We were in a draft at that point. We weren't the volunteer army that we are today. And we talked, and she was like, you saw tragedy, you saw destruction, you saw death every night on the nightly news at 6 o'clock when the national news would play. And the local news would talk about those in the local area that had passed away and from the war. And also, it was a proxy war between communism and the United States, throwing good things after bad, and all of that under the threat of a nuclear Armageddon. And we're here again, having to deal with those emotions. Some of us grew up under that threat. Movies like War Games and I'm losing track of the movies, but there were so many movies. And that threat was always there, always under current, always there for us. I told this about when I did the Ukraine story, or the Ukraine episode, about 4th graders sitting in a classroom or sitting at a lunch table talking about the end times and talking about nuclear Armageddon. Fourth graders shouldn't be having conversations like that. But we did. And then a generation, and almost two, learned not to have to fear like that. Learned that, yes, there are nuclear weapons, but there wasn't that threat. And now, here we are, worried. As a nation defends itself the best it can, and the rest of the world, 90% of it, that can, because there are nations that cannot be involved because they have their own turmoil. But as far as the quote-unquote Western world is united and doing whatever it can without stepping a single foot inside this country of Ukraine. And we watch it. And we watch the tragedy on our TV screens night after night. And we see glimmers of hope as well. But then there's personal tragedies. Someone I knew for almost 30 years plus passed away this weekend. Chris Delisle was an interesting man. I remember going to clubs, and though I was never super close, I considered him a friend. And the loss of someone that you've had close ties to for that long, even if you're not close, partly because time passes, and also because we've been in lockdown for so long that we lose touch. Social media can only do so much. Messaging can only do so much. And when we have to deal with those tragedies, you can feel so alone and so lost. First off, it's okay not to be okay. These past 2 years has been hard on so many people. Not just the financial situations, that's part of it, but just the overwhelming, crushing emotions of COVID numbers, of Black Lives Matter, of the injustices that states are doing towards trans individuals, and especially trans children. The dismantling of the abortions rights and autonomy of women in this nation. It can all pile up, and every day and every hour it just seems like there is more bad news. And I understand that, and I feel that, and I get that. I feel it every day. There are days where it is a struggle to even uncover myself to get out of bed, let alone getting out of bed. It feels like my blanket is 1,000 pounds. I say this because I want you to know that you're not alone if you're feeling these kinds of tragedies. If you're feeling the personal as well as the existential strain. And it is okay. There are a few things I want to bring up, and I'm going to, in the comment section here, I will list a few links from the CDC and stuff like that. There is one that kind of come out to me, and this is from the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and it is coping with grief, 7 things to remember when dealing with loss. Number 1, it won't feel like this forever. And that's true. As I mentioned, the anniversary of my father's passing is coming up, and wow, it still hurts. It doesn't hurt like it did. Because I take that opportunity of both his death and his birthday, which is also in the same month, to remember the good things. To remember how lucky me and my brother were to have 2 wonderful parents that loved us and cared for us. And it can be a little sad that you miss them. There are times I wished I could just ask my mom or my dad, hey, what do you think about this? Or can I get some advice? I hope that we have made our parents proud, me and my brother. I'm sure my parents are proud of my brother. And I hope I've done the same and made them proud. But eventually, you get to the point where you can smile when you remember and not break down into tears. This one I think it needs a caveat. Number 2, it says you can handle it even when you feel like you can't. Sometimes things are overwhelming. It can be devastating. And it can be hard to deal with painful things. That's why if you can get any help as far as going to a therapist or just seeking out help in a group, whatever, or friends who have been in the same position you've been in, that it helps to talk to someone and to get the help you need in coping, in dealing, in being able to handle it, because there are amazing resources out there. Always be gentle with yourself. I remember after my parents passed, how many times I would question if I could have done something better, if I could have done something different, if I could have talked the doctors into something else, and I did it a lot. And I can't tell you you're not going to have those thoughts. What I can tell you is that when you have those thoughts, understand that more than likely you did everything you could in every way possible. And some things are just not your fault, even if you want to blame yourself. It's okay to be kind to yourself in tragedy. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to put down the phone and stop doom scrolling. There's a reason why it's called that. Number 4, think in lines. Sorry, back that up. Think in cycles, not in lines. Understand that healing or being able to deal with a tragedy, there are going to be days that you feel great. And then the next day, maybe the next hour, something will just punch you in your face and remind you again. And that is hard. Because you think you're just getting to that crest on the hill, but you will cycle through pain. You will cycle through grief. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to understand that life moves on like that. Understand, number 5, that your feelings are normal. Sadness, anger, whatever it may take. The stages of grief, I'm not going to go into, but it's okay to feel those things. It's okay to feel the rage, to feel angry at times. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to accept it. It's okay to do all of these things. And you may do them repeatedly. You may do them over and over again. Remember, don't think of it as a line. Think of it as a cycle. And sometimes you have to retread some things a few times before it's okay. Number 6, grief can beget meaning. This is a hard one, especially as someone who is a person of faith. It's a little easier sometimes because it's like, well, there's a reason for this or whatever. But sometimes it's less that in general. And I'm not saying people of faith don't have this problem too. You can't find meaning for cancer. You can't. But you can find meaning in your life. What I mean by that? Sometimes grief, just like anger, can be a powerful motivator. And these things may bring about a new purpose in your life or a new passion, such as working for a cancer ward or helping out in whatever way possible to ease other people's suffering, to ease other people's pain. Is one example. There's many examples. This podcast is one of them. This was partly created out of my need to reclaim my faith, but it was also partly because my mother once told me that one day you will find a way to use the fact that you like to hear the sound of your own voice for profit and gain. I'm hoping one day for that, but right now I'm struggling, but still. She also told me when I told her that my first customer service job was like, Mom, I got a great job in an office. It's like, that's great. What will you be doing? I'll be doing customer service. And my mother said, but son, you hate people. She was half joking and half being serious, mostly being serious. But for years and years, I was good at customer service because I like to hear my own voice. But that's part of this podcast also, is a kind of a legacy from my parents to try and do something, to try to make a difference the best way I know how. And as much as September likes to poke me about being cynical, at the end, I do believe humanity is good at heart. They just need to be shown the way. Not led. They just need to see a light. I know it's a religious connotation, but I mean in general. They just need to find a way. Yes, there are always going to be bad people in this world. But there's also more good than bad. Number 7, you're not alone. It's true. Everybody deals with tragedy. Everybody deals with death. Everybody deals with grief. We deal with it in different ways, but it's definitely there. So, find those people that you feel comfortable talking to and speak with them and see what they have to say and see if they can help you down the path that they've already been down. Sometimes it's not comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you don't want to deal with this stuff. Let's talk about some practical things. First off, it's okay to turn everything off. It's okay to turn your phone off. It's okay to turn the TV off. Or it's okay to put on a movie that has nothing to do with what you're dealing with. It's okay to put on a comedy or a Disney movie. I hear Turning Red is really good. I really need to sit down and watch it. Or anything to take your mind off of things for a little while. It's okay to pick up a book, even if you've read that book before. Sometimes an old, comforting book that you really love can help. It's important to unplug if possible. There's a reason they call it doom scrolling. There's a reason why it's dangerous to look at these things. It's also okay to just lose yourself in a video game or music, whatever you enjoy. It's okay to do these things. Especially today, people were like, well, the people of Ukraine don't have those luxuries. That's not completely true. They still are using their phones. They're still trying. You know, that video of the little girl singing Let It Go in Ukrainian. I think that's how you pronounce their language. People try to find a little bit of joy, even in the worst situations. So it's okay. You can't help anybody if you are so burned out and so wrapped in all of this that you can't function. We need you to function. We all need to function. So it's perfectly okay. It's also perfectly okay to not feel okay. To feel that depression, to feel that sadness, to feel that loneliness. It's okay to feel that sometimes. No, you're not alone. But the other things, it's okay to feel those. When you're feeling really bad, just reach out and let someone know that you're close to, that you feel comfortable talking to. Say, look, I'm not okay. And if you don't feel like talking, that's okay too. But let them know. Let them know. Because I do believe in prayer, positive energy, whatever the term you wish to use. Because I feel that is powerful. Try to have at least 2 glasses of water a day. Especially when you're dealing with tragedy. Your body is not functioning like it should be anyways. There's a lot of gunk in your system, for the lack of a better term. And having a couple of glasses of water, while it might not flush it out, it will definitely help. And you should stay hydrated anyways. I know even taking a shower some days is impossible. But try to use baby wipes, whatever. Try to have a function. Tragedy also brings chaos. So try to set a routine of some kind, even if it's only for an hour a day that you set aside for something specific. It's a routine. And that routine helps with the chaos of tragedy. Because tragedy, most of the time, 90% of the time, 99, I don't know, but tragedy is sudden and it's chaotic. So finding that little bit of normality in a routine of some kind, doesn't matter what it is important. Try to at least walk a little or do something physical for a few minutes. Doesn't have to be long. Doesn't have to be exhausting. Could be just walking outside to the mailbox and back a couple of times, depending on where your mailbox is, but you get what I mean. Just to get a little blood flow. It helps. It helps clear your head sometimes, especially if you can get outside and it's not like 1,000 degrees or sub-zero. It helps to get a little fresh air, to feel nature sometimes. These are things that I'm suggesting. This is stuff I have found that works for me and helping in some ways, and I need to be better at it, but it helps in some ways. Reach out if you feel submerging to a friend, to a counselor. I will be posting the link for the CDC's recommendations for grief and loss. I'll also have the National Suicide Hotline on it and a few other places. It's okay to escape. It's not okay to escape using substances, because it will be a downfall. That could cause a problem. That could set up another routine. That isn't a good one. It's not a good coping mechanism. Trust me, there are days that I just don't want to feel. And I get that. I understand that. I do. As someone who is dealing with chronic illness and chronic migraines, I understand about what it's like to just have the pain go away for a few hours, a few minutes, a few seconds. I understand. The urge is great. Sometimes that is not a good enough reason. It's not healthy to do that, to wash it away. Not in that respect. Like I said, the escapism, that's one thing. It's okay to escape into like a book or something like that. Completely another to escape using substances. Always know there are people out there that love you. You may not feel it, but know that there are people out there that love you and want to help you and want to be there for you, even if it's just sitting next to you. Or when that message that I mentioned earlier and you don't want to talk, just know that they'll be there when you want to talk. And more than likely that person will tell you that. It's like, I'm always here whenever you're ready to talk. And that's just as important as talking sometimes. Just knowing you're not alone, knowing that there's someone on the other end of that phone or other end of that hall or wherever the case may be, that they can help you, that they can do whatever they can for you. I want to read something, but before I do, understand a couple of other things. I know that some of my friends are atheists and some aren't. And I am not going to discount my atheist friends. I don't understand it sometimes, but I respect your right to not believe. This is more for those who are in doubt or have questions. How can I say this most earnestly? A couple of things. My friend, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, Mary the Sparkles, we were driving to a show once, and she gave me this revelatory idea about faith, gods, what have you. It's a spoke in a wheel. My faith, the Christian faith, the being raised Southern Baptist, but being a progressive evangelical, as Dr. Reverend Barber calls it, is one spoke to the great cosmic. And I've discussed this before on this show. So, whatever your belief system is to connect you to the cosmic, it's valid and it's okay. I believe in an afterlife. I know that there's an afterlife. What it is, I think it's a representation of what you believe. If you're a Viking and you die a warrior's death, you go to Valhalla. There's another one, and I don't remember that one, and it's not hell, but there's another one on top of it that's like, for those who are good people, but, aren't warriors. Whatever you believe, that afterlife will be that afterlife. That's a little bit of like, first off, personal hell, from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, but also it's a little bit like the heaven in Lovely Bones, which is kind of your personal heaven. So I kind of believe that your heaven will be the heaven that you, or the afterlife will be the afterlife that you believed in alive. Because again, you're trying to understand the cosmic. So, but I want to read something that is not about tragedy, but is about what we can have, what we are, what we fight for, which is love. Love of ourselves, love of the people around us, love of the nations, love of the world. And this is from Scripture. It's from 1 Corinthians 13:4 through 8. It's a very famous passage. But I want to read it again, or read it to you, because I think it's important. And I think it's prescient. Because we are trying to find a little bit of love in this world. And a little bit of hope. And right now, we could use a little bit more love in this world. And a lot less hate. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It does not keep records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It always prevails. Love never fails.
What's up, Doc?
So let's talk with this week's carrot and stick. First off, our carrot, which I am going to be the arbiter of saying this is the first platinum carrot. It goes to President Zelensky. I'm not even going to attempt to try to pronounce his first name because I'm really bad at these things, and you know that. If you're a long-time listener, and if you're a first-time listener, I'm really bad at pronunciations of foreign names. Sometimes I'm bad at pronouncing American names or pronouncing words. So, his bravery in the face of all of this, back in the start of this, the U.S. said, hey, we'll get you out. And Zelensky said, I don't need transport. I need bullets. We'll be posting a link to the address that he gave to Congress today on March 16th, 2022. I'll be posting that in the comments below as well. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment, stuff like that. It helps. Share this, other stuff. Just thought I'd do a quick reset. The stick. This goes to Peter Schiff. So Peter Schiff, in a tweet, I think that's where I first saw this, was complaining about how Zelensky, I apologize, didn't wear a suit when he addressed Congress. Hey, here's a thought. He's in a fucking war zone, you fuck. I was surprised he showed up the way he does. Look, every time I see him on camera and he's not wearing like a full-on SWAT outfit, helmet and everything, that's more bravery than I have. He's had at least 3 Russian hit squads try to take him out, and he's still standing. If he, shows up and he's not in that gear, that camo gear with all the little leaves and stuff, and straw and everything, that the fake straw and stuff that's on him that you see in like some of the one that sticks out into my head is GoldenEye, at the end of GoldenEye when the Marines all stand up at the end of the movie. If he's not in that kind of outfit, he's a better man than I, Gunga Din, let me tell you. So to whine about the fact that he wasn't wearing a suit, well, this is one of the reasons you probably didn't win in Connecticut to be a senator, because you're a dick. Anyways, I know I just read something about love not easily angering. I didn't say it was easy to anger me. Well, it is kind of easy. I need to work. Look, as a Christian, I'm working on that. But my point is, he showed up and he was dressed in something that wasn't full-on flak gear, okay? Be happy with that, all right? It's a bloody war zone. What the hell? It's not like he's in Poland or something like that. His city is being bombed. What do you want from him? Oh, good Lord. Anyways. So, Peter Schiff, you get the stick. All right. So that's this show this week. Next week, there will be a show. I have no idea what I'll be talking about because I'm still processing grief as it stands right now. So, but there will be a show on the 24th. In the meantime, I want to thank you for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII. You can also follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, any podcast catcher, or even on Spotify, but I don't want to be. We may be on a new one. I need to look up some information, and I'll provide that to you next week. Just Google us. Don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/Heresy and Hearsay, where $2 a month can keep the show going. It's also how I pay my bills, so any help can do that as well. I had to pay bills for, the show. You can also find my partner on Twitch and Twitter at 9of12. That's NINEOF12. And you can also hear her on the Geek Growth podcast, and also, again, support her on the Next Top Podcaster. And thank you for listening today. And bless your hearts.